Unexpectedly, Nicole Kidman filed for a divorce in September 2025. Months ago, she and Keith Urban were posing perfectly on red carpets, grinning from ear to ear. Something even darker, however, was disclosed in court filings. A pre-signed agreement was created weeks before anyone knew, and there were restrictions on custody and procedures for drug testing. He didn't show up to the premieres of her main films. She was earning twice as much as he was. On stage, there was also the young guitarist who he couldn't tear his eyes away from. What actually terminated a marriage that deceived everyone for 19 years is what we're going to reveal today. The actress Nicole Kidman came into this world in Honolulu, Hawaii on June 20, 1967. Janelle was a nursing educator, while Anthony was a research fellow at the University of Hawaii investigating breast cancer. She was bestowed the name Hokalani, meaning heavenly star in Hawaiian. Not because of anything astronomical, but because the zookeeper in Honolulu gave birth to an infant elephant on that exact day and gave it that name. Her parents felt the name was appropriate. Their time in Hawaii was brief. 3 months down the road, her family uprooted and headed for the nation's capital, where her dad landed a job at the National Institute of Mental Health. Protests were at a boiling point in Washington, D.C. in 1967. Both of Nicole's parents were staunch opponents of the Vietnam War. At home, they didn't merely discuss politics. Moving forward, they marched. They were apprehended. During a demonstration outside the Capitol, Nicole's mother once cradled her in her arms as she was detained. Flew tear gas. Cries were raised by the crowd. None of it stuck with Nicole since she was too little. Shay was too little. However, those tales shaped her early years. Her folks kept telling them. Her mother would subsequently describe these times as formative. They laid the groundwork for Nicole's subsequent activism on behalf of survivors of domestic violence and women's rights. The family returned to Australia and settled in Longville, a leafy Sydney suburb, when Nicole was 3 years old. At that point, things began to become difficult. She felt like an alien the moment she stepped foot in Lane Cove Public School in 1973. She had flaming red curls, pale skin that became scarlet in minutes, and a towering stature at 5 feet 8 inches by 13 inches. She stumbled excessively. When she spoke, the other children made fun of her and called her names. Sitting in the restroom, she frequently ate lunch alone. Her 4th grade teacher recalled discovering her in the restroom with her sandwich still uneaten and a book on her lap. She started reading 4 books a week when she was 10 years old, trying to escape from reality. No words came out of her mouth. Her only desire was to vanish into tales. Things were similarly cramped at home, albeit in a different manner. Her mom was an editor for feminist journals, and her dad was a psychology professor at Sydney University. They had degrees, were active in politics, and were bankrupt. Nicole and her sister shared a 10 by 12-foot bedroom until Nicole turned 15. In bunk beds, they slept. The one television in the room was subject to stringent regulations that limited its programming to news and documentaries. There was no air conditioning, and the summers in Sydney were terrible. In order to save up for her own dancing shoes, Nicole would clean her aunt's clinic on weekends. That job began when she was 12 years old. Thinking, not spending, was what her parents emphasized. During dinner, they discussed feminism and food, but Nicole was more interested in performing. She begged her parents for ballet classes after seeing The Wizard of Oz when she was 4 years old. From 1971 until 1977, she was a dedicated student in the junior program at the Australian Ballet School. She sashayed around. Her teachers gushed over her exceptional musical talent. Still, she was only 5 feet 11 inches tall when she was 16 years old. It was excessively tall. Her dance partners were unable to help her up. Dance organizations advised her to put her dreams on hold. The sun was also too much for her skin. On one occasion, she needed bandages because she burned so badly during outside rehearsals. At that point, her dream of becoming a dancer died. Despite the pain it caused, she subtly began to focus on acting. Shortly thereafter, in 1988, when Nicole's acting career took off in Australia, tragedy struck the family. Between 1985 and 1988, her father oversaw contentious therapy sessions at Chelmsford Hospital. He was an expert in a field known as recovered memory therapy. Victimized patients, according to his detractors, were led to believe fake recollections. His teachings claimed the lives of 3 individuals. Probes were launched by the Australian Psychological Society. His 1989 court case exposed that he had charged $15,000 per week for hypnosis treatments. This man left in 1991. Close friends and family of Nicole, who was in the United States filming Days of Thunder at the time, reported that she was distraught, but remained silent. Her dad had a heart attack in a Singaporean hotel stairway in 2014 and passed away abruptly. Certain inquiries were left unresolved. Nicole, unfazed, persisted. When she was 13 years old, she enrolled at the Sydney Phillip Street Theatre to study mime and drama. She crossed paths with Naomi Watts there. Around the age of 15, they both tried out for an advertising role. Their height, flashes, and awkwardness were all criticized. After seeing Nicole perform in a weekend play, director Jane Campion offered her a part in a student film. The part demanded that Nicole wear a shower cap, so she turned it down. That, she said afterwards, was her worst mistake. Later on, Campion wrote her a postcard advising her to keep her talent a secret because of her great potential. At 17, however, a new paradigm emerged. Aggressive breast cancer was the diagnosis for her mother. In order to assist her mom in her recovery, Nicole left North Sydney Girls High School and took a job as a massage therapist. Since her parents declined to give her a ride to acting school, she had to rely on 2 buses. In Bush Christmas, which was released that year, she made her film debut as a woman who pursues stolen horses throughout the Australian bush. Although unglamorous, it served as an initial step. The same year, she was involved in the crime comedy BMX Bandits, in which she rode a bike around Sydney streets, avoiding criminals and doing stunts of her own. And she continued to work. She landed her first adult part in 1986, Wind Rider, when she was just 18 years old. Playing the role of a rock singer, she sported a fiery red leather jacket. She poured herself into the role rather than singing her own parts. Even though the film bombed, it gave producers a taste of her acting potential. The 1987 miniseries Vietnam followed, in which she portrayed the sister of a soldier about to go out to battle. She was praised by critics for her spectacular performance. At the 1987 AFI Awards and the 1988 Loos, she was named Best Actress. She persisted in challenging herself. She suffered rib fractures, knee cartilage tears, and spinal bruises while filming Moulin Rouge in 2001. She had a broken rib and a waist that was compressed to 18 inches by a corset. She hurt herself in a car stunt that went wrong in downtown Los Angeles in 2007 while shooting The Invasion. An ambulance was summoned by the crew. As usual, Nicole remained silent. In 1989, she had one of her breakout performances. The heroin smuggling case of an Australian teenager in Thailand was the subject of the 3-part miniseries Bangkok Hilton. The death sentence was an option for her character. The show became the most watched series in Australia that year, earning a 7.8 rating on IMDb. It was hailed as one of Nicole's finest performances, yet she was just 21 years old. Soon, it became clear that she was more than meets the eye. She never let up. Oh, she could weep. Even when she didn't speak, she could command attention. They placed her on a ship in the middle of the ocean at the tender age of 19 and instructed her to portray a bereaved woman struggling for her life. You couldn't fool the waves. The queasy feeling wasn't an illusion. Furthermore, her concern was genuine. Nicole Kidman starred in the 1987 film Deadcom, which was filmed off the coast of Queensland. They instructed her on how to navigate the yacht. Plus, she took the helm of the 40-foot Storm Vogel herself during the storm scenes. Production lasted about 6 months. She was unrecognizable, wounded, and drenched. Critics were raving about her talent at the age of 21 when Deadcom premiered in 1989. 1,000 best films of all time was subsequently included in the film by the New York Times. However, Hollywood was indifferent. With only a carry-on and perhaps some lingering self-assurance from her time in Australia, she embarked on a journey to Los Angeles. A weekly sum of $200 was sent to her by her parents in Sydney. Almost every audition she tried for ended in rejection. 50 rejections later, nothing had changed. Director of castings warned her she was too tall. In the case of musicals like Annie, they took measurements right at the entrance, defeated her truth. Not 5 feet 11 inches tall as she claimed. When she was in drama school, people started calling her a toy. Even now, she could hear it. Next, there were Days of Thunder. Tom Cruise plays a race car racer, and she plays a doctor who falls for him. The chemistry between the actors wasn't merely an act. They drew near quickly. Her age was 23 and his was 28. A marriage to Kidman followed Cruise's divorce from Mimi Rogers by less than a year. It took place in Telluride on Christmas Eve of 1990. No public viewing or press coverage, just Dustin Hoffman's daughter and immediate family were present at the intimate event, standing as an eyewitness. Things didn't get easier, though, just because she was married to Hollywood's biggest celebrity. People kept telling her she wasn't typical, tall, foreign, blonde, and Australian. She went darker with her hair dye. She made the decision to engage the services of accent coaches so that she wouldn't come across as scary. She committed the technique of shrinking herself to memory. You won't have a career. Casting directors continued to tell her bluntly, you possess an excessive stature. And yet, she persisted. She persisted in wearing the flats for some time, despite their repeated warnings that she would appear taller than Cruise. Equipped with muck and blasted by frigid winds, far and away arrived. On May 28th, 1991, filming commenced. 800 riders and 900 horses were reenacting the Oklahoma land rush scene by July 7th. Skeletons were shattered. A horse perished. Kidman tripped as well. A rib was broken by her, kept going. It was still included in the film. Attempting to portray the role of an immigrant girl in love, she performed her own stunts and filmed wrestling scenes in the dirt. Afterwards, malice occurred. A medical thriller starring Alec Baldwin that descended into chaos prior to screenplay completion. An explicit sexual scene was director Harold Becker's desire. Aaron Sorkin shied away from penning it. Conflict ensued. In retrospect, Sorkin said he felt embarrassed by the film and decided to walk away from it all. There was clear tension on set. It all seemed off. She had an equally hectic personal life. Isabella was adopted in January 1992 by her and Cruise, and Connor was adopted in January 1995. It was rumored that Cruise's infertility caused by steroids was the reason behind the adoptions. Although they initially denied it, Kidman later revealed that she had a miscarriage and an ectopic pregnancy that almost killed her, all while shooting with her eyes shut. Back then, nobody had a clue. Even the press didn't know about it, and she continued to work. She played a love interest in Batman Forever, but the filmmaker mercilessly deleted her scenes. $10 million was hers for just 17 minutes of film. They wasted days filming a rooftop seduction sequence that ended up getting cut to a few seconds. That daring red versus gown was hers for the debut. Cruise physically impedimented the photographers. There was mayhem. Even after she walked the red carpet in style, some still referred to her as a sideshow. Finally, the day arrived when a deceitful weather reporter had her husband assassinated by a child she had coerced. In order to appear healthier, Nicole had to put on 15 pounds. Her steely blue glare was accompanied by colored contacts. Joaquin Phoenix was in his 20s. The director had to clear the set because of the brutal sex scenes she helped him through. At the Golden Globes, she triumphed over Sharon Stone and Maelstrom. At long last, she became seriously considered. However, discord was growing within Scientology's ranks. Squads coerced her into joining. She spent $300 per hour to hold electrodes and reveal her secrets while going through almost 500 in auditing. Her official clearance came in 1992. She spent more than $150,000 on it. She was instructed by the religion to cut off communication with her best friend Naomi Watts. Her folks were against going. To encourage David Miscavige to step up his efforts, the church took him out to supper at her Sydney parents' house in 1997. In the year 2000, Nicole had already begun secretly meeting with exit counselors. Amidst this, filming for Eyes Wide Shut was underway. 15 months passed. That was the limit that Kubrick set for her and Cruise. It takes 95 seconds to film a tragic scenario. Kubrick desired her genuine sobs, her authentic hoarse voice, and her authentic collapse. In fact, he even set up weekly therapy appointments for them. During filming, The therapist revealed that their marriage was in a state of collapse. Kubry passed away only 4 days after presenting the studio with the finished product. We finished filming. It was almost over for their marriage as well. Cruise gave her a call in February of 2001. That's all, just 3 minutes. Advised her that it was finished. She was in Australia for the filming of Moulin Rouge. On set, she passed out. She later came clean about her suicide thoughts. There were irreconcilable differences according to the divorce filings. He was granted legal parenting time. She consented to spending just 8 weekends annually. Scientology attorneys took care of it. Their plan was to accuse her of being overprotective if she refused to sign, and she would permanently lose custody of the children. Following the divorce, she began to accessorize every day with 4-inch Manolos. For 10 years, Cruise had insisted that she wear flats. The first thing she did to feel free, she added, was to put on her heels again. In the same year Moulin Rouge was released, she sung despite the discomfort, wore restrictive corsets, and practiced frickin' dances. In addition to her first Oscar nomination, she took home the Golden Globe. Lost out. It was Hailey Berry. It was irrelevant, though. At last, she was noticed. Then came the rest, just $17 million. Approximately $210 million was made. Many were taken aback. She received more nominations for her role in that ghost story. In Spain, she was involved in the production of the fog effects. For that type of power, she had battled. The time passed. Her nose was prosthetic. Even Harvey Weinstein despised it. He boldly stated, "I paid $1 million for that girl, and no one knows who she is." However, she remained unwavering. She received the Oscar in 2003 after studying letters and suicide notes sent by Virginia Woolf. The joke was on Denzel Washington by a nose. He won, but he meant it seriously. Rumors began circulating about her and Ewan McGregor at approximately the same time. They said she became pregnant as a result of their affair during Moulin Rouge. According to McGregor, it did not happen. 8 weeks into her pregnancy, Kidman experienced her second miscarriage. Speculation persisted. She inherited the $7 million Pacific Palisades house as part of the divorce settlement. Both the house and her silence were guarded by her. To film Dogville, a stage devoid of sets except for chalk lines, she traveled to Sweden. She battled Lars von Trier while really wearing a chain around her neck. In a wilderness, they yelled at each other for 3 hours before finally clearing the air and finishing the film. No one could put their finger on it, but eventually it made it onto the BBC's best of list. She shot in Romania for Cold Mountain, The Real Thing Snow, Icy Winds, and Surviving. After learning to farm and filming scenes on ice, she fell ill but persevered and was nominated again. The Supporting Actress Award went to Renée Zellweger. She didn't cry. Nicole clapped. Bewitched followed. Her largest single payday was $17.5 million. In one scenario, Will Ferrell appeared to freeze and utter, "What the heck just happened?" He completely lost his lines. He was reportedly influenced by her gaze. She resembled an extraterrestrial, according to Colbert. Nicole had already surpassed all other actresses in terms of salary when the film bombed. While secretly pregnant, she filmed in Australia in 109-degree heat, went down on a horse. Even Hugh Jackman passed out. The set was ruined by the rain, shot indoors after relocating. She persisted in the face of morning sickness, bushfires, and the fight for Indigenous rights. After giving her a song in 9, they decided to eliminate half of her involvement. Glamorous but underutilized critics said she was. She remained silent after attending the Dubai premiere and fulfilling her duties. She merely returned home. The Golden Compass then took on the role of villain, receiving a $15 million payment. The film's gross was $372 million, but its profit was razor thin. She dominated every scene, and there was no sequel. This statement was made many years ago, but the gender pay gap is still negative. Those women were told they had fewer opportunities and fewer positions. That was her life. She created the film rabbit hole on her own and played a mother grieving the loss of a kid. She attempted to attend actual grief groups, but they rejected her since they didn't understand. She broke down in tears as her co-star lied to get in. It seemed as if she couldn't sleep, had nightmares, and refused to stop working. Afterwards, Her character Paddington, a taxidermist, sported a golden wig. She was urged to bring it home by her daughter. The role of villain has always appealed to Kidman, she remarked. Dubbed it a role out of a dream. Some praised it highly. The film grossed $268 million. With a smile, she continued, beginning with 2010's Rabbit Hole, Nicole Kidman, and Persari established Blossom Films. However, 2017's Big Little Lies was the game changer. She portrayed Celeste Wright, a wealthy lady trapped in an abusive marriage. That kind of brutality doesn't make a sound. That kind of thing kills you slowly but surely, day after day. After each particularly harrowing scene, Kidman would return home limp and battered and sob quietly in the tub. That her character was completely unaware that she needed to depart was something she revealed to a San Francisco audience of 250 people at a later date. Like millions of others, she was wallowing in denial. She earned an Emmy for being so forthright. Lion, in which she played Sue Brierley, the adoptive mother of a little Indian kid who had gone missing, was filmed only a year before. Being in that role was like looking into a mirror. The real Sue and Kidman hit it off like old friends after Kidman traveled to Tasmania to meet her. Sue is an adopted mother herself. According to her, the story was deeply moving. I don't think it was sad, I just thought it was truthful. Mothers are important to children in whatever way they enter their lives. The ensemble received 6 nominations for the film, and she received 4 for her performance. After 2019's Bombshell, however, the masks were removed. The Fox News host who deposed Roger Ailes, Gretchen Carlson, was portrayed by her. Silence, tight gowns, and twirling were all things Carlson was compelled to do. She wrapped everything in tape instead. She even failed to provide Ailes' crew with all of the recordings. The movie included that specific detail. The scenes involving Kidman were surgical rather than boisterous, resulted in her receiving a drooping nomination. Despite the film's cosmetics awards, her 2020 breakthrough came in The Undoing. The role of a therapist who is married to a killer wasn't the only one. The topic was the evolution of filmmaking. In order to choreograph scenarios in a safe manner, they hired intimacy coordinators. Logistics weren't the only thing. The focus was on safeguarding individuals. Should be sacred, Kidman said. There should be no scenes that make you cringe. The contrast was striking, more unfiltered and riskier. They shielded the performers, not because they pushed them. No one in 2021 wanted her to portray Lucille Ball as the Ricardos. A social media frenzy ensued. Too slender, too graceful, too un-Lucy. However, Kidman unveiled her true colors. Every day, her cosmetics crew was only given 45 minutes. She analyzed Lucy's gait, posture, and laugh from vintage reels from the 1950s. Her support extended even to Lucy Arnaz, her daughter. She managed to secure her 5th Oscar nomination in spite of all the hoopla. Baby Girl was released in 2024, right when everyone thought she would finally quiet down. She portrayed a strong CEO who had an affair with her intern, who was significantly younger. It had no give, it lacked sweetness. There was fire. The intensity of some scenes was so great that they forced Kidman to halt filming, she said. She had never before spoken those words aloud. Venice was the film's premiere. Volpe Cup victorious she was. On a budget of $20 million, it has generated $64.6 million by January 2025. Things weren't only good, it became A24's 8th most popular video ever. However, the general public only saw this. There was a marriage that was struggling under the pressure of achievement, hidden away from the limelight and the awards. She crossed paths with Keith Urban during an event in January 2005. He had a heroin and cocaine addiction, which she discovered after only 4 months. The majority of them would have slipped away. She took it upon herself to intervene, driving him to Betty Ford. He claimed that after 90 days of dating, he realized she was the one. They tied the knot in Sydney on June 25th, 2006. The price tag was 6 figures. Just the floral arch cost $100,000. Despite the 3 months spent hand sewing the gems onto her outfit, her adopted children from her marriage to Tom Cruise were absent. She had been excommunicated by the Scientology Church. Her mother had the honor of walking her down the aisle. Sunflower Rose was born in 2008 via in vitro fertilization. Nicole left Hollywood for 2 years to care for her breasts. They used a surrogate to have Faith Margaret in 2010. In their mansion in Sydney, they invested $3 million to create a personalized nursery. The nursery included murals painted by a protege of an Aboriginal artist, chandeliers made of Venetian glass, and a secret reading corner concealed behind a bookshelf with rare children's books valued at $50,000. After suffering through years of loss, her desire to become a mother was that strong. However, in August of same year, 2010, Urban had a relapse while in Toronto using crystal meth. In the bus, a bandmate uncovered drug paraphernalia. He was taken off stage and checked into Sierra Tosin by Kidman, who flew in mid-tour. She made nightly flights to Arizona from film sites for 6 weeks. Her demand was straightforward: make a choice of drugs or me. He picked her out. However, by 2017, a change had occurred. Urban gave her a backstage performance at the Oscars as she sported a $10 million Armani gown. It was picture perfect. But his touring was decreasing. Album sales have decreased by 40% from 2010 levels. At the same time, her annual salary was $20 million. His salary was $8 million. The power switch caused a rift. He has no interest in playing Mr. Kidman. Treatment wasn't helping. The year 2024 followed. Urban did not appear in any of the episodes of the Baby Girl premiere season, traveling to Venice, Toronto, and New York. Supporters took note. Also, he rewrote the lyrics of his songs. He was going to sing Nicole's Power in 2018. My Daughter's Strength was its official name by August of 2024. Instead of his customary shout-out to Kidman, he dedicated the song to his guitarist during a September show. The same month, contractors announced that the $12 million refurbishment project in Nashville had come to a standstill. The design was a point of contention for them, and the topic of cabinets wasn't the only one. No longer could they find common ground. Then the unexpected happened. Nashville was the site of Nicole Kidman's divorce filing on September 30, 2025. According to court records, Urban had already left months before. Despite her best efforts in treatment, he had already left. People were taken aback because they had been seen laughing and attending the Met Gala together 4 months prior, as if everything were all right. That particular case was 25 DCV 8472. Legal professionals considered filing in Tennessee as a calculated move. The procedure would be accelerated. They were $250 million in the bank between them. All eyes were on the custody docs. With Sunday and Faith, Kidman was blessed with 306 days of the year, which is 84%. Urban only had 59 days. The documents referenced his 2006 trip in alcohol rehab. Prior to the public's knowledge, on August 29th, they had previously signed the pre-filing parenting plan. Prior to any visits, Urban had to undergo a drug test. A neutral location was required for all drop-offs. Until he finished sobriety counseling, no staying overnight. There was no mention of child support amounts, but it would amount to between $15,000 and $20,000 per month based on their income. While alimony was not a contentious issue, the distribution of property became contentious. The Nashville Franklin estate, valued at $12 million, was retained by Urban. Their $18 million Beverly Hills mansion and $6.5 million Australian Boonah Hill house were both retained by Kidman. They divided up the 4.2 million miles they had accrued. Their $800,000 worth of old guitars had to be broken down, too. Even though it had only opened a few weeks ago, Baby Girl was still playing in theaters. Worldwide, it had already generated $45 million. All of Urban's music royalties were kept by him. Kidman retained the profits from her producing firm. Urban did not wear his wedding band to his Brisbane concert on October 12th following their breakup. Before looking down at his 25-year-old guitarist Maggie Ba, he had fired 2 long-standing bandmates and brought in 2 younger ones. This was the first time he had revised the lyrics of Blue Ain't Your Color in 19 years. He splashed out $4.7 million on a studio apartment for himself. On October 8th, he was seen dining with B.A. by the paparazzi. His camp denied any romantic involvement. But Kidman's friend said she felt embarrassed. She hadn't married this man. The cover of the magazine followed. Fall of 2025, she's bizarro. Kidman appeared collected, but she was actually quite hurt. She told you that you feel entirely shattered. Resolving the pain takes time. She and her girls walked the Parisian Channel runway just 3 days after filing. She, Sunday, and Faith, no one from the city. She had recent bangs. It cost her $12,000. The divorce debut was the term used by many. Her support group emphasized her dedication to amicable co-parenting. She had hired the 852,000-hour mediator that Dr. Phil had suggested. In addition, she was penning a memoir titled In Progress, Grace and Grit. The publishers were already bidding $12 million. The tale that started with a shared laugh at a gala quickly came to a close in a Tennessee courtroom after 19 years, 2 daughters, 3 interventions, and 100 red carpets.